Imagine walking through the streets of a big city and being drawn in by a melody that leads you to a mysterious place where the past and present collide. In this video, you'll follow Emily as she discovers a bar where shadows dance and forgotten stories come to life. What she uncovers there might change everything, and you won't want to miss a second of this intriguing tale.
Behind the doors.
Emily Carter walked through the streets of Chicago, the cold morning breeze gently brushing against her face as she focused on the notes in her journal. Her search for a new story had led her deep into thought, but a soft, nostalgic melody emerging from the radio of a nearby cafe caught her attention. It was a song that transported her back to her childhood, filled with laughter and happy memories. Instinctively, she paused, allowing the music to envelop her, as if each note danced in her mind, bringing forth images of sunny days and carefree afternoons. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" commented a male voice beside her. A gray-haired man, seemingly a regular at the cafe, looked at her with a melancholic smile. "Yes, it is. I remember it from my childhood," Emily replied, feeling an inexplicable connection with this stranger. "Do you listen to it often?" "Sometimes. This song has a way of reminding us of things we'd rather forget." The man smiled, but there was a sadness in his eyes. Emily nodded, thoughtful. The music seemed to call to her, like a compass pointing towards an unknown destination. Driven by a desire to discover more, she decided to follow the melody, leaving the cafe and its conversations behind. With each step, the song seemed to grow stronger, guiding her through streets and alleys she had never noticed before. Finally, she found herself in front of an old bar, Dancing Shadows, hidden on a forgotten street and shrouded in an air of mystery. The wooden door creaked open, revealing an interior that seemed frozen in time. Soft, yellowish light illuminated the space, where shadows danced in sync with the music filling the air. Emily hesitated at the entrance, a strange sensation washing over her, as if she were crossing a line between the past and the present. "Welcome to Dancing Shadows," exclaimed a deep voice. It was Jack Thompson, the bartender. His dark eyes observed Emily intently, as if he were assessing her presence there. "What brings a young lady like you to a place like this?" "I heard the music on the radio," Emily began, but the words failed her as she noticed the number of people dancing around her. Most appeared to be specters from times past, their ethereal forms floating and moving in a choreography that seemed both beautiful and tragic. "The music has a special power here," Jack said, with a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It attracts those who have a connection with the past." Emily looked around, fascinated and slightly scared. "What kind of connection?" she asked, curiosity overcoming her fear. "Oh, each of us has our own stories. Some come to forget, others to remember." Jack wiped a glass with a cloth, his expression turning more serious. "But not everyone can leave." Emily's heart raced. Each word from Jack sounded like a veiled warning. She wanted more information, but a female figure caught her attention. A woman of ethereal beauty danced alone, her deep, enigmatic gaze fixed on Emily. It was as if the music hypnotized her, drawing her into a world she didn't fully understand. "Are you okay?" Jack asked, apparently noticing the change in Emily's demeanor. Emily hesitated, unable to take her eyes off the woman. "Who is she?" "Sarah Jenkins," Jack replied, his tone lowering. "A former regular at the bar. Her presence is unique." Emily felt a wave of emotion at hearing the name. The music that had brought her here seemed to have a greater purpose. She needed to learn more about this place and about Sarah. But as the dance continued, a sense of apprehension settled in her heart. The Dancing Shadows wasn't just a bar. It was a portal to untold stories, and she was about to become part of one. Emily was in a state of enchantment and confusion as she approached the Dancing Shadows bar. The environment, shrouded in soft dimness, seemed to pulse with the music that still echoed in her mind. It was a place where the boundaries between the real and the ethereal blurred, and as she observed the people dancing, she felt on the verge of a deep, intriguing secret. Jack Thompson was behind the counter, cleaning glasses with a cloth that seemed to have seen better days. His gaze, intense and enigmatic, fixed on Emily as she approached. He had the aura of someone who carries the weight of many untold stories. The bar's soft lighting highlighted the lines of his face, revealing a man who, although young, seemed to have lived much more than most. "You're new around here, aren't you?" Jack asked. His voice was deep and melodic, like the song still echoing in her mind. "Yes, I'm just exploring," Emily replied, trying to hide her growing curiosity. "That song that was playing, it's so familiar. Do you hear it often?" Jack hesitated, his eyes narrowing as he considered the question. "That song has a way of finding us. Sometimes it brings people who are lost, like you." "Lost?" Emily repeated, intrigued. "What do you mean by that?" "Sometimes people come to this bar looking for something they lost. A love, a dream, or even a part of themselves." He turned to grab a bottle, his movement fluid and precise. "But don't get too carried away. The past here has a way of trapping people." As he spoke, Emily noticed a figure in the distance. It was a woman of ethereal beauty, with a gaze that seemed to transcend time. The woman, Sarah Jenkins, was at the center of the dance floor, her movements fluid and hypnotic. The world around seemed to disappear when Emily watched her. It was as if the music was calling her, and in a rush, she found herself approaching the dancer. "You shouldn't get close to her," Jack warned, his expression now serious. "Sarah, she's different." "Different how?" Emily asked, a mix of fear and fascination enveloping her. "She's stuck here, like many others. Dancing is all she does now. Don't let her lure you into this world." The concern in Jack's voice was palpable, but Emily couldn't take her eyes off Sarah. "I need to dance with her," Emily stated, determination growing within her. Jack sighed, but didn't stop her. He seemed to know that his words might not be enough to deter her. As Emily approached Sarah, the woman looked at her with an enigmatic smile, her eyes shining with an intensity that seemed to transcend reality. "Did you come to dance?" Sarah asked, her voice soft as a whisper. "The music brought you to me." "Yes," Emily responded, feeling drawn by Sarah's magnetic presence. I don't know why, but I feel like I need to be here." "Then come," Sarah said, extending her hand, and Emily didn't hesitate to take it. As soon as they joined, a wave of energy coursed through Emily's body, and she found herself dancing in harmony with the woman. The other dancers seemed to disappear, and the world around faded away, leaving only the enveloping melody and the magical connection between them. The dance was ethereal, and Emily felt free, as if she were floating. However, as the music progressed, a sense of unease began to creep in. The smile on Sarah's lips seemed to hide a deeper secret, and suddenly, the woman pulled away as if a shadow had crossed her face. "Wait!" Emily shouted, reaching out, but Sarah began to fade, her body becoming ethereal and indistinct. "What's happening?" "You can't stay here for too long, Emily," Sarah whispered before disappearing completely, leaving a deep void in the young journalist's chest. The bar, which had once seemed full of life, was now filled with a palpable sadness. Emily turned to Jack, who was watching the scene with a somber look. "What happened to her?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "She's an echo of the past," Jack replied, almost in a whisper. "And you, my dear, may end up becoming part of that echo if you're not careful." The tension hung in the air, and Emily, her heart racing, realized that the dance was not just a fleeting pleasure. It was an invitation to get lost in a world she barely understood. Determined to uncover the truth, she felt that she needed to understand the mystery of dancing shadows and the roles Sarah and Jack played in this dark tale. Emily Carter sat at her desk, surrounded by a pile of books and documents, all dedicated to the history of dancing shadows. The dim light of the lamp hanging above her cast dancing shadows on the walls, almost as if the bar itself was trying to communicate. A yellowed piece of paper caught her attention. It was a newspaper clipping, dated decades ago, mentioning a devastating fire that had consumed the place. The date coincided with the song she had heard on the radio, sending a chill down her spine. A fire, she murmured to herself, her fingers brushing the paper. What else happened that night? Curiosity pulsed in her heart, and she knew she needed to find out more. With determination, she picked up her phone and began to do some online research. The hours passed and the night deepened, but Emily's search led her to surprising information. The police records mentioned not only the fire, but also a series of disappearances that occurred near the bar. It's like the souls of the people are trapped here, she thought, remembering Sarah's hypnotizing dance. But why? Determined to understand the connection between the disappearances and the bar, Emily decided to return to Dancing Shadows. The place still attracted her in an inexplicable way, as if she were being called by a dark and seductive chant. As soon as she entered, the familiar environment enveloped her. The low lights and the smell of aged wood welcomed her like an old friend. Jack was behind the bar, cleaning glasses, and his eyes met Emily's. "You again," Jack said, with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "Are you here for more stories or just to dance?" "I'm here to understand what happened, Jack. The fire, the disappearances, all of it. I feel like there's something more, something that connects you, Sarah, and this place," Emily replied, her voice firm. The bartender hesitated as if weighing his words. "Some stories are better left buried, Emily. This place, it holds secrets. And you? You seem to know more than you're willing to share," she insisted, noticing the vulnerability in his expression. Jack sighed and moved away from the bar, gesturing for her to follow him to a more discreet corner. "There are things you don't understand. This bar was built on tragedies, and I'm part of them." Emily felt a lump in her throat. "You? What do you mean by that?" "I was the bartender on that fateful night. I couldn't save everyone. The flames, they consumed everything too quickly. And those who disappeared? Well, some of them never left this place," Jack revealed, his voice now a whisper. "You're saying they're trapped here? Like Sarah?" Emily was attentive, absorbing every word. "Yes, and I'm one of them," Jack confessed, his eyes lost in a sea of memories. "I stayed here, trapped between worlds, waiting for someone to understand what happened." The silence between them was heavy, filled with unspoken emotions. Emily felt a wave of empathy for Jack, for the pain he carried. "But you can help me, Jack. If we understand what happened, maybe we can free them." "Free them? And yourself? You don't understand the danger you're in. You shouldn't mess with these forces," Jack warned, his voice now tense. "I can't just ignore it. The music that brought me here. It's like it's calling me. I need to discover the truth." Emily's determination was palpable, and Jack, despite his fears, saw the burning passion in her eyes. "So you're willing to take the risk? For you, this may be just a story, but for me, for them, it's much more than that. It's life and death," he replied, his voice trembling. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes, Jack. I can't leave these spirits trapped here just like you." Jack observed her, the internal struggle alive in his gaze. He knew Emily was plunging into an abyss of mysteries and pain, but at the same time, he felt that she could be the key to a different future, both for him and for the others. The bar's and its soul's fate depended on that brave young woman who was willing to challenge the unknown. The atmosphere at Dancing Shadows seemed more charged that night. The music resonated through the environment, creating a kind of mist that enveloped the dancers, while Emily Carter watched intently. Although the people around her seemed alive, there was an aura of melancholy that made her question the nature of those souls who danced eternally. The faces were vaguely familiar, as if she had seen those men and women in old photos, but she couldn't remember where. As she walked through the bar, the song that had brought her there began to echo in her mind, like a persistent echo that wouldn't leave her alone. The melody was nostalgic, full of a sadness that made her feel almost guilty for being there. Emily turned to Jack, who was behind the counter, polishing a glass with a cloth. He seemed more tense than usual, his eyes scanning the environment as if looking for something. or someone. Jack, Emily began, her voice almost lost in the music. You know something about this song, don't you? It's like it's calling to me. Jack paused for a moment, the glass in his hands trembling slightly. Emily, you need to understand that some things are not meant to be unearthed. Some songs have power, and this is one of them. But I can't just ignore it. There's something here, something that needs to be revealed. She approached the counter, her determination growing. You know about Sarah, don't you? About what happened that night? He looked her in the eyes, and Emily felt as if she were looking into his soul. You don't know what you're getting into. Sarah, she's not just a story. She's part of what happened here, part of what's still happening. But I need to know, Emily insisted, her voice now louder. If there's a hidden truth, I want to uncover it. Jack sighed, seeming defeated. The song you heard, it was played on the night of the fire. The souls you see dancing, they're trapped here because of it. And Sarah, she never had the chance to be free. But why do you stay here? If you know, why don't you do anything? Emily couldn't understand Jack's apathy. He looked at the floor, his expression of pain becoming evident. Because I'm trapped too. The bar, the music, it's like a net. Once you're in, the chances of leaving are slim. A shiver ran down Emily's spine. You're saying you've been here for decades? That you can't leave? Exactly, Jack said, his voice almost a whisper. And I can't let you become another victim of this song. You need to leave now. I can't, Emily responded, the determination burning inside her. I won't leave this behind. If there's a chance to help Sarah and the others, I have to try. Jack's expression hardened. You don't understand what you're asking. The song is not just a melody, it's a portal. And if you open this portal, there may be no way back. As they talked, Emily began to see flashes of dancers in the bar's shadows. Each of their movements seemed to tell a tragic story, and she felt that those specters were watching her, begging for help. One of the women danced alone, her eyes full of deep sadness, and Emily realized it was Sarah. Jack, I saw Sarah, Emily said, her voice trembling. She was dancing there, and when I looked at her, I felt a connection. We need to help her. Don't do this, Emily. Leaving this place should be your priority, Jack implored, but Emily's determination only grew. I can't just ignore those who are suffering, Emily responded, her voice firm. If the music is what binds them, then I'll figure out how to free them. Jack shook his head, a mix of worry and resignation in his gaze. If you insist, then you need— I know, Emily said, her mind already immersed in plans. But I can't walk away now. This music, it's the key, and I'm going to find out how to use it. Jack's gaze softened, but the worry still remained. Be careful, Emily. What you find might not be what you expect. As the music continued to play, Emily felt a new determination growing within her. The ghosts danced, and she was about to delve even deeper into the story that bound them. The music called, and she couldn't ignore the plea of those who had been lost in time. The atmosphere at Dancing Shadows was thick, as if the air were heavy with untold stories. The lights flickered softly, casting dancing shadows on the walls, while Emily watched Jack, who was cleaning glasses behind the bar. Determination burned in her chest. She couldn't leave things as they were. With a firm step, she approached him. Jack, she began, her voice heavy with urgency. You know more than you're saying. What happened here? What do you know about Sarah and the disappearances? Jack stopped, his gaze fixed on the floor for a moment, as if weighing his words. Emily, you don't understand. Some things are better left in the past. This place, it's more than a bar. It's a portal to other stories, stories that shouldn't be retold. But Emily wasn't willing to back down. But I need to know. The music brought me here, and now I'm seeing things I can't explain. Before Jack could respond, the bar door burst open with a bang, and a tall man, dressed in a long coat, entered. It was Michael Reed, the detective investigating the disappearances. The tension instantly grew in the air. Michael looked around, his eyes fixing on Jack before turning to Emily. You're the journalist who's been interested in this place, aren't you? He asked, his tone direct and firm. Emily nodded, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. Yes, I'm trying to understand what happened here. We're all connected in some way. Michael frowned, his attention now on Jack. Do you have any information that could help us? The disappearances aren't just urban legends. I have reason to believe you know more than you're willing to share. Jack crossed his arms, his face serious. I can't help with what I can't explain. This place, it has its own rules, and often we're not welcome here. At that moment, the bar's lights began to flicker, and a sudden blackout plunged the place into darkness. The silence was broken by a distant murmur, as if the ghosts of the past were waking up. Emily felt a shiver down her spine, and soon a familiar melody began to play, reverberating through the walls. The dancers began to emerge from the shadows, their ethereal figures floating in a macabre ballet. "Emily!" Jack shouted, his voice now tinged with despair. "Be careful!" But the young woman was mesmerized. Visions of the fire began to appear before her eyes, fragmented images of screams and flames consuming what was once a vibrant place. She saw faces, people who danced before being swallowed by the tragedy. The music seemed to guide them, and amidst the chaos, a familiar figure stood out. Sarah. "Sarah!" Emily shouted, reaching out. "What happened to you?" Sarah's figure spun, her gaze fixed on Emily, full of pain and longing. "You need to understand, Emily. We're trapped here because of what happened. The music keeps us together, but we can't move on." Sarah's words echoed in Emily's mind, a call to the truth she needed to uncover. As the dances intensified, a sense of panic took over. Emily turned to Jack, who was now in a state of total alert. "Jack, we need to do something. They're trapped here." "I know," he replied, his voice loaded with emotion. "But we can't do this alone. The music is the key. We need to find it before it's too late." At that moment, Emily realized that her connection to the place and its inhabitants was deeper than she had imagined. The music that had brought her there was not just an echo of the past, but a living link to the souls that danced around her. She wasn't just watching, she was part of that story, and time was running out. Emily observed the room at dancing shadows, with a mix of fear and fascination. The music still resonated in her ears, each note seeming to carry the weight of lost souls. The bar, shrouded in mist and memories, pulsed with an almost palpable energy. Jack, beside her, seemed tense, his eyes scanning the environment with a concern she couldn't ignore. "You shouldn't be here, Emily," he said, his voice low and urgent. "This place isn't safe." "I need to understand, Jack. Sarah, she's important. I feel like there's something deeper here, something that connects all of us," Emily replied, her determination growing with each word. Jack pressed his lips together, clearly struggling with his own demons. "You don't know what you're asking. Sarah isn't just a woman trapped in this place. She's part of something much bigger, something that could consume you." At that moment, the music seemed to change, becoming more intense, as if the spirits around felt the tension between them. Emily looked at the ethereal dancers, their faces distorted by sadness, and a thought occurred to her. What if her connection to Sarah was more than mere curiosity? What if she was linked to this mystery in a more personal way? "Why are you so worried, Jack? What do you know about Sarah?" she insisted, her voice almost a whisper, but firm. "She's a version of you, in a future you shouldn't know," Jack revealed, his expression now a mix of pain and resignation. "She got trapped here, tied to the bar and the music, just like me. And if you're not careful, you could become the next." Emily's heart raced. "How is that possible? How could I be her?" "This music, Emily, it's not just a song. It's a connection between past and future, between the living and the dead, the fire, the lost souls. All of it is intertwined. And if you play the song on an old radio that's here, maybe we can free them." "But you must be prepared for what that means," Jack explained, his voice now heavy with gravity. "Free them? So you're trapped too?" Emily asked, shocked by the revelation. "Yes," he confirmed, the sadness in his gaze undeniable. "I'm one of those who couldn't move on. And the only way to free Sarah, and all of us, is to play the song." The music in the background seemed to intensify, the sound growing in a collective cry from the spirits, as if they knew of the possibility of escape. Emily looked at Jack, perceived the depth of the pain he carried, and at the same time the hope that ignited in her heart. "Then let's do it. Let's free them," she decided, the determination shining in her eyes. Jack nodded, a mix of relief and fear on his face. "Follow me. The radio is in the back near the stage." They walked through the bar, and as they did, the dances of the spirits seemed to intensify, as if they were being drawn by an unknown force. When they reached a dusty corner, an old wooden radio was there, covered by a layer of dust. It was an object that seemed out of time, with worn buttons and a curved antenna. "It's here," Jack whispered, his hand trembling as he adjusted the knobs. "Now, you must play the song." Emily felt the adrenaline rising, her heart pounding. With a hesitant touch, she turned the knob and suddenly the music began to play. The nostalgic melody filled the air and the environment lit up with a soft light. The spirits began to dance around them, forming a circle of hope and pain. "Now, Emily," Jack shouted, his voice full of urgency. "Free them." She closed her eyes, allowing the music to envelop her. She felt a deep connection with Sarah, with Jack, and with all those who were trapped there. The rhythm of the song quickened, and Emily began to dance, her movements synchronizing with those of the spirits. The energy around them grew, and she felt the presence of each soul, as if they were all united in a final effort to break free. "Let's go together," Jack shouted, and in a moment of clarity, Emily realized that love and friendship were the keys to freedom. With one last spin, the music reached its climax, and the light enveloped everyone in the bar. Emily felt a wave of warmth and love surrounding her, and in a magical instant the spirits began to dissipate, leaving behind a trail of light and hope. When the music finally stopped, the bar was silent. Emily opened her eyes and saw that Jack was beside her, a peaceful expression on his face. "We did it," he said, a sad smile forming on his lips. "And Sarah?" Emily asked, her heart still racing. "She's free now." "They all are," Jack replied, looking at the empty space where the spirits had danced before. "And you are too, Emily. You broke the cycle." As they left the bar, Emily felt a lightness she had never experienced before. The dancing shadows was now silent, but the music that played on the radio would continue to echo in her soul, reminding her that love and memory never completely fade away.